What can break seal? So what did the
Good evening, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to the Community Redevelopment Agency Board meeting. The day is April 18th, 2012. The time is 6 p.m. And we'll have a pledge and a moment of silence by Vice Mayor.
Hey, Richard. Almighty God, thank you for this wonderful day, and we pray for your blessings on our city and our city employees, and help us to make wise decisions in our meeting. In your name we pray. Amen. You pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. I would like to, just a couple of few announcements. If cell phones, please, to off or vibrate. Two other things. We're not live streaming, but we are filming so that when you go home, you can go YouTube/Satellite Beach and see yourself. See us. And also, Councilman Billman is hidden away at a bunker in Washington, D.C. Is it a bunker?
No, unfortunately, it's in Colorado Springs, not D.C. Actually, probably fortunately.
I thought, okay, but this is what Adam would like me to pass along, that he can hear everything that's being murmured in the audience. So it's kind of like, you've ever been in the Capitol where they got that whisper chamber that you can, they used to cheat. So murmuring is, up to you. So we're here to do the CRA. Once we finish the CRA, then we're going to be into the council meeting. And welcome, Greg, how are you? Okay?
Very good, sir. How are you?
Fine, thank you. All right. Agenda item number 3. Discuss take action on revision of list to approve stakeholder interviews. I asked Dave Allison, but he's not here. I think it's his individual. Dave mentioned one person. We wrote down a different person, but he would like to include in the stakeholder interviews for CRA, Bill Yerkes, Y-E-R-K-E-S, and I think he is known as Balsa Bill. Okay, and the person we had on there would be removed. So I need a motion to approve it.
So moved.
Okay, I have a motion by Councilman Billman, second by Councilman Higginson. Sorry, I thought you were. I was trying to figure out.
Now that's a new one.
I was trying to figure out how to refer to it. Board. How would you like? CRA board member is Kinberg second.
Yes, that's the new.
All right.
Can you just say Kinberg or that guy?
Okay. I'll do that. All right, Lenore. Cool.
Councilman Billman?
Yep. Yes.
Councilman Medina? Yes. Vice Mayor Rhodes?
Yes.
CRA Board Member Kinberg? Yes. Councilman Higginson?
Yes.
Mayor Bronte?
Yes, and that motion does pass unanimously. Agenda item number 4, Mass Lawn Project, Mr. Cry.
Thank you. At our special meeting last week, we looked at the JPA with the Florida Department of Transportation, whereby they are willing to provide $35,000 of the cost for the installation of a mast arm at the intersection of Shearwater Parkway and A1A. The funding for this project includes $75,000 donated by HP Communities Hunt Pinnacle, which operates the military housing at the intersection of A1A and Shearwater, even though the property is not located in the CRA, but they have donated $75,000. The CRA budget this year contains the remaining $75,000 for the project. At the last meeting, Councilwoman Dean requested clarification on the issue of the JPA agreement being with the city or the CRA. I was asked to verify that through the consultant CGA. I sent them information to provide you with a copy of their response. And Jeff Morris, one of the representatives from the CGA, indicated that a good guide for a CRA board is to always take your action so that there's some type of an audit trail to, if anyone wants to look back on how you got to where you ultimately got to and where you spent your dollars. So he suggested that we have a memorandum of understanding between the city and the CRA regarding this particular issue. Following last Tuesday's special meeting, Public Works Director Alan Potter contacted FDOT. They prefer to have the agreement between the city and FDOT. We did bring up the issue that Councilwoman Dean identified, and that is the project in Cocoa is a JPA between the Cocoa CRA and the FDOT. But in that particular project, FDOT is the project sponsor. They're really making a contribution to our project that is clearly a locally controlled project. So they indicated they would prefer to leave it with the city. So having said that, the city attorney, when we got the information today from the CPA consultant, put together a memorandum of understanding that will provide that audit trail. Also, I followed up on an email I received from Councilwoman Dean this afternoon regarding to ensure that the plan specifically addressed Mast Arm, and it does on page 21 of the plan regarding the physical plan. It says, treat the major intersections, and it says such as DeSoto, Cassian, Jackson, with possibly median landscaping, Mast Arm traffic signals, decorative lighting, poles, pavers, etc. And so it does address the Mast Arms. When that question was asked, it's page 21. I didn't provide a copy to the council, but it's right from the CRA plan. That's all I have.
Thank you. Let's bring it back to the board.
I have a couple questions. If HP Communities, their donation, is it specifically for that Mast Arm?
Yes.
And if it's not, if the work's not completed this year, does the donation go away?
I have to look at the time requirements on it, but it's specifically for that project. We couldn't use it for anything else, but in terms of how long we have, I don't have that agreement in front of me.
And then I know I'm particular about this, but it didn't specifically say Shearwater Mast Arm, so I do for the record have some concerns about that in the plan, even though it said Jackson, DeSoto.
Basically, the plan says such as when the plan was written, these properties were not even in the city. I'm sure what was not in the city at the time.
I also, has the money already been received?
Yes.
The money has been received.
We have it.
Well, not from
But from Huntington, yes.
We talked about the resurfacing big projects coming up this coming year between 192 and Anita.
Yes.
We said if we were interested that the FDOT would pay 50%.
Yeah, they would require us to pay $80,000
of the Mast Arm.
Yes.
To Mast Arm at every intersection on A1A, which is probably 3 more besides the one we're looking at now.
3 or 4, yes.
And that would be easy. So, but we decided not to do that because we didn't necessarily have fun. It's half again. It's 25% rather than 50%. When they do that, when they do the fit, there's always comes because this comes with the signaling box. Is that kind of standard? When you do the Mast Arm, they do the signal box also. That's kind of
Address the signal box.
Package deal.
I think that's what they were going to do, right?
If they haven't replaced the signal box, they would. If the signal box had recently been replaced, they wouldn't have to do that. I think the $80,000 speaks to the Mast Arms themselves. Anything in addition to that, signalization, upgrades would be covered in the $40,000 that they were going to contribute. So it's they said they were going to contribute $40,000. If you had to replace the signal box, then that would come out of that $40,000. If not, then you have that extra money to use towards the basketball.
Also, in consultation with the traffic engineer retained by CPA who looked at this particular proposal, he indicated the engineer's estimate compared to South Florida prices was very competitive. And I did indicate that CPA would be asked to look at the final plans in terms of design to meet architectural standards for the CRA, and also to address the issues of the corrosive nature of our environment and to ensure whatever treatment the mass farms have will weather this environment.
Well, I know that, especially with Mr. Eckler spoke, we were talking about doing all the mass farms and we made a decision not to. So I know, I'm not wavering on this, but I think just because we get a good deal on one mass farm, I don't know if I can support it, even though it is a great deal.
I think it'll give us a good indication, 2-3 years down the road, how well that has survived.
Well, don't forget this whole line of there's one Cassie, isn't there?
There's one in Cassie. I think they put a new one in Jackson.
And how long have they been in? I don't know.
They've been in since probably 2.5 years since they.
And they're not decorative.
No, they're the galvanized.
They're galvanized. So we're talking about painted decorative, and I think we talked about, the corrosiveness and the paint peeling and some of the other issues they have when they go down. You have to get inside this whole piece of water and things like that. So I don't know if it's a good expenditure on behalf of the or not.
Here's my question: Do we need a new mass farm there? Is the one that we have sufficient for hurricanes and things like that?
Well,
just working toward
the intersection.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, sir.
The intersection is in need of replacing. The signals themselves and the signal box, and that's how I kind of worked the deal with DOT. Rather than them spending the money, give it to us, so we can put it towards our project. So I'm sure if this project goes away, they'll figure out a way to do it, with that $35,000. But we'll still have schools there.
Yeah, I'm just a little confused procedurally. How much of the total cost of this thing? Is it 75 plus 30, or is it, you said 150 minutes ago?
150. I think the engineer's estimate, including professional fees, was $160,000.
Okay. And then the HP's paying 75, the county state's paying 35, and then we're paying the difference. Then who does the work?
We would go out to bid. It's a city project.
It's a city project. So then the CRA end up giving the money back to the city to pay for it? That's what I'm getting kind of confused at. The money's supposed to be coming in the CRA. We're saying it's a CRA project. The CRA doesn't have anybody working for it, so they don't have the ability to contract for the project.
Well, the permit would have to be with the city.
And who actually writes the contract and does the bidding? The city or the?
We would do it as the CRA could actually do the bidding. The city would have to hold the permit.
It's a DOT permit, that's right.
Correct.
Yeah.
The
The city would have to apply for the permit.
Right.
The CRA doesn't. Does the CRA have any employees?
No.
So the CRA, how can the CRA do the bidding and award the contract if it doesn't have any employees?
The city staff does not have any employees that are compensated by the CRA, but there are city employees who assist in those functions.
But they won't be, the CRA won't be reimbursing the city for the cost of those employees to do the bidding.
No.
They're just going to volunteer labor for the CRA.
But on all the other projects that I've worked on, there the city attorney that's charged has never been charged.
That's what I wasn't sure of, because I wanted to make sure I understood how the money was flowing. So all of the money goes just directly towards the contract for it, and none of it goes towards any city overhead.
So the total, that 160 is for the plans and for the mass storm, but it's for the installation item.
And Alan's not.
Yes. The motion that we're looking for is to approve, actually the city would approve the JPA, but to approve the memorandum of understanding with the city attorney, prepared this afternoon, which is at your place. And,
So And the gap in funding comes out of CRA funds,
Correct.
and those have already been previously budgeted.
They have been, and the other issue that was discussed at last Tuesday's meeting is that the council, Councilman Billman requested that the council consider, or the CRA board consider, putting any savings as a result of the DOT contribution towards debt service retirement. That can be looked at as you amend budgets at mid-year.
What is budgeted for? What's in the
75.
75 from the CRA.
Okay.
Councilman Billman, anything, Greg?
Yeah, one question to Alan. Alan, did I just hear you say that Shearwater and A1A is going to require a new light anyway?
They were going to work on it, probably about a year ago. And that's when I got the idea to make the call.
Okay. Yeah, because I agree with Councilwoman Dean. I mean, we had the discussion with the last mast arm, and we had, I don't know if that gentleman's there. I can't see the crowd. I don't know if the gentleman's there who was helped us out the last time with regard to the engineering of the mast arms versus the other signals. But I thought we determined that with a decent light, if there's a current light up there, that meets the requirements, and we don't necessarily need mast arms. So I'm kind of with Councilwoman Dean, and if we can save the $75,000 and either use it for other things or use part of it and invest the rest of it into debt, I would be for doing that. But if Alan believes that we need a new light at that position, then this effort makes sense. So that's where I am.
They needed a new light there for over a year.
What's wrong with the current light?
Well, it's right in our no-name store. It came down, well, it almost came down in a car, but that's neither here nor there. But it's in pretty bad shape. So they're going to respan it. They were going to respan it. Before that, then they had this occurrence, and I keep getting phone calls from the county. What's going on? What's going on? Because the county maintains the signals for us. We have an agreement with the DOT to maintain them, which we contract with the county to maintain. We don't have the equipment.
When you said they were going to respan it, who are they?
It would be the county through DOT.
And they would pay for that themselves?
DOT would pay that. They would use that $35,000 they were going to give us to respan.
And then it would be a safe light again?
I would assume so.
That's what I'm trying to understand is, this is something DOT would normally fix and correct on its own, the defective installation.
Yes, if they're at an age where they've become past their useful life, let's say, then they go through and respan the intersection.
But if, for example, if there was not a light at Shearwater D1A, and the DOT made the determination to put in a traffic signal, their regulations require a mast arm.
Or in the event that we lost one of the poles, and the poles were no longer useful, they would replace them with mast arm.
So that's what I'm trying to figure out is, what I don't understand is, they have to replace it and upgrade it to code or safety standards or whatever, anyway, out of their own pocket. Why are we putting $75,000 into upgrading it out of our pocket? I understand HP likes the idea and it makes the community more attractive and all that kind of good stuff, but I'm just looking at the dollars and cents issue and trying to figure out, why wouldn't we let FDOT pay for it on its own and keep the $75,000 and maybe try and talk to HP about using that $75,000 or some other improvement in the Shearwater area that they make it more appealing to their customers. That's what I'm stuck at.
I mean, I don't know what the agreement or how the donation was made. We can look into that, but it would certainly be better served as a figurative intersection crosswalk rather than an answer that the DOT could install ultimately probably.
Well, FDOT isn't going to pay for crosswalk.
No, that's something we could use for the $75,000 for along A1A.
And I would believe that as receptive as HP communities have been to working with the city, if the CRA board would like to look at an alternate project with that money, I think they certainly would engage us in that discussion.
I think what we have to find out though, Alan, because we're going here, if the light is defective, if they have to fix it anyway, then, we may consider not fixing it. But if the light is working, since they're gonna be constructing from the galley down to 190, down to the Pineda, is it part of the plan and they're just gonna let it hang, just gonna let it be in its natural position for the next couple of years? Because it sounds like somebody has to fix it. It's broken. Are they gonna fix it? Or are they just gonna keep it in part of their 2013, 2014 project?
My understanding is that if we don't go forward with the mast arm, that they will have to do something with that intersection.
When?
Pretty soon.
So they're gonna spend their money
this year. Yes.
Do they have,
Just so you know, that the resurfacing of A1A, nothing to do with lights.
So we'd have to get a guarantee, that they would fix that in this fiscal year. Otherwise we're gonna wait 2 years and then see what happens.
I can certainly make a phone call in the morning and find out what their plan is if we don't go forward with the mast arm.
Yeah, well, the way I look at it is, actually, if you were gonna give me that money for something, I would take it too. So if they're gonna you said they were ultimately gonna replace those fans, whatever they're called, with mast arms, and that light's defective and they're gonna replace it anyway, well, let them know they're done.
Yeah, we'd have to see.
Alan, explain it.
I'm sorry.
Did you think, Alan, that they're gonna replace them with mast arms in the near future?
I thought,
No, it won't be mast arms. It'll be a swing span. They're just going to, they're going to upgrade what's there. They're not going to replace it with a mast arm.
but yeah, our city council meeting, because this was, special city council, we decided that we weren't gonna contribute to mast arms along A1A. So I just think we wrote better service. Another project. For money.
All right, so let me hear either motion from the board or the,
Go ahead. FDOT isn't gonna give us any money.
They're gonna replace the scan arm.
we can get a mask on for 20% on the dollar, which is pretty nice, 35,000. Because Fund Pinnacle pays 75, FDOT will pay 40, and we'll pay 35. Very fun. That appears worthwhile.
Consultant thinks it's worthwhile.
I didn't do that either.
I
They're just
didn't,
answering
either
the
way,
question, yeah.
I didn't read it either way, other than,
My thought is if you put a nice decorative mast on at Shearwater, how many years is it gonna be till the continuity of all of A1A is gonna have mast arms and looking nice? I don't know if we're doing it prematurely or.
Well, and I don't know this for a fact. So, but I'm pretty sure that any Arbor Beach is going to replace theirs with that.
They've begun the process.
So we'd be the odd man out because there are mast arms pretty much all the way down A1A, with the exception of.
Yeah, but we agreed at the last council meeting not to do the mast arms. And then there's gonna be Indian Harbor Beach mast arms, no mast arms, and then a mast arm at Shearwater, so. I mean, it's a huge investment.
So I think one max on it, 20% on the dollar, 20 cents on the dollar. The other 4 max on, the 3 max on that you need, we can address that issue next fiscal year or 2 fiscal years.
that's $600,000 for this one, that's,
Yeah.
that's a lot of money.
32.
150 for each one, right?
No, we were gonna put in 80 each, so 320,000 plus engineering.
Well, the state was going to do it,
They were gonna do it when they did this.
so,
All right, we can, let's
I
say
think
we're
that
at
would
a
be-
standstill. So
What we can do is come back with a report from HP Communities to see what their position would be on the $75,000 donation, and then you would have all the information.
Okay, well, I would also like to know, when is the state going to bring that up to code and safety standards if it's effective right now? Are they, if we decide not to go with the mass arm, are they going to go ahead and with a short-term plan to do it, or are we going to be sitting there with a dangerous swing light for 2 more years? That would be a big issue to me.
I think that would be the issue. All right, we're gonna, Al, we're gonna put you on the hot seat for another meeting, for the next meeting, to do some, send it back to you, to the staff on this, okay? All right, agenda item number 5, update on CRA issues. So what's that? Thank you, Al.
Beginning tomorrow, we will schedule an interview for the stakeholders. The interviews will be held on May 2nd between 1 and 5 p.m. and May 3rd from 8:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. And then on May 2nd, the first public meeting will be held by the consultant. And no, that's actually May 2nd, the city council and the CRA board will receive a presentation from the consultant on their activities to date, what they will be doing over the next 30 days during the month of May. And they will also make a presentation to you entitled CRA 101 at the May 2nd meeting. Also on May 2nd, they will begin their organizational analysis and functional analysis of building and zoning, code enforcement, planning, development, and community redevelopment. And the first public meeting for the preparation of the new CRA plan will be held on Thursday, May 3rd, from 6 to 8 p.m. in the Pelican Beach Club.
That is an important thing for the community and the citizens. That's the first public meeting. Thursday, we'll make it again on May 2nd is our meeting. The next day, May 3rd, is 6 o'clock. Pelican Beach Club. And I understand they do not want the council to be there.
That is their preference. It is a meeting that anyone can attend, and they've asked that the council and the CRA board should not attend.
Okay.
The next CRA meeting is May 2nd,
May
6 p.m. 6 p.m.
A couple questions, just for clarification. The stakeholders interviews. The stakeholders interviews. Are the stakeholders going to come to City Hall or something to be interviewed? Are the consultants going to do their business? How does that work?
They prefer to have them come to City Hall. We reserve this room and the old community redevelopment director's office, former community redevelopment director's office. So they're having 2 of their staff people conduct the interviews. As we did in prior times, if there's a logistics issue, they can do it. But in terms of trying to interview 20 to 25 people, with 2 people doing the interviewing, it's desirable to have them come to this location.
And just to reiterate, it's just going to be anonymous. All their responses are going to be anonymous.
That's the intent.
All the data.
That's the intent.
And the other thing is, maybe Cheryl can clarify this too, since you have knowledge of CRA and things. The information is going to be taken. We have roughly 20 people that are going to interview a business. They're going to take that data and compile it and come up with some sort of plan or strategy or goals based on what the data they take.
That's part of the process. They will also take the information they receive at the 2 public meetings, and then they will use their professional expertise and experience in dealing with development of CRA plans, and they'll be interacting with the CRA board also. They'll be coming back to you periodically during this process.
That's what my question was, is I know that we have, 3 former mayors on the list. We have at least 1 former council member on the list, and other board members for the city. It seems like the current council and the current mayor should certainly be part of that input for the data to compile together also, but I don't know.
Well, we're going to offer each of the 7 CRA board members an opportunity to fill in one of those sessions if you would like to attend. So you will have that opportunity also.
All right, anything else?
Yeah. Go back to this. Go ahead, Bill.
On the interview, who is going to send out the notifications to the staff? Or
We will be calling to set up the meetings, and we're going to ask for their email address so we can confirm, immediately before the interview the time. But staff will be contacting the people on the list, and we have control sheets will be filling in the times.
Okay.
I'm just getting back to just a question I want to ask on the Mass Times when Alan comes back. What is the difference in lifespan between the swing lights and the Mass Times that we have here? And the technical differences? I mean, is one more better than another in a hurricane? Is one going to last 5 years, one going to last 3 years?
I think we got some minutes,
So,
we had a board meeting where we had a professional come up and say, we've only lost the light once. Drop down, so it kind of like swayed us from staying away from mass storms, at least before we,
okay, yeah.
the other ones. And, it's part of
We
the
had many
transparency.
traffic signals during storms. I don't have the data in front of me, but I would guess in the 20-some years I've been here, at least 10 traffic signals as a result of storms that come down.
Just for clarification purposes, what I was told by DOT is that there were some issues and are some issues with the mast arms right now because of different coatings, and we didn't know if that was from the same manufacturer or what those problems were. They didn't know what those problems were. The lifespan of a mast arm is much longer than that of a swing span. The swing spans do have to be rehabbed more frequently than the mast arm themselves. That being said, there's the money issue, So, and Mr. Eckert did say that, and I confirm this with DOT, that they've become more robust and more, they last a lot longer than they used to. However, they are vulnerable. They're vulnerable in heavy wind. No, the swing span, because of the nature of the design. I mean, they're out there swinging around and get a good wind, and they're more likely to come down than the others. However, on the other side of that, if the signals go out because of the design, the wiring inside of the mast arm and this and that, there's a more lengthy downtime with the mast arms than with the swing span.
You're all pretty skinny to fit inside that room.
Is there a longer lead time if the light gets direct in a storm on a mast arm? Is there a longer lead time to getting a fixture than there is getting a swing arm fixture? Seems like the swing line fixtures, they must have millions of those things because they're always up a day or two later.
Yeah, I don't think it's necessarily the fixture. I think it's the wiring inside that they're concerned on with the mast arm. The swing spans, the reason why they're easier to put up is because they can access them. They can go and access the wiring and put everything back together with a button truck. Whereas with the, if you get flooded out and your wiring goes crazy in a mast arm situation, then it's a little bit more difficult to access those wires and troubleshoot the problem.
Following the 04 hurricanes, FEMA came in and we could have, it had two options: fix the existing traffic signals immediately following the storm event, or go for the major repair, the mitigation grant. And they were willing to fund the replacement of our existing signals with mast arm. I believe 3 intersections were affected from that second storm, Gene. And however, we could not proceed with repairs until such time that it was approved, and that time was 6 to 9 months, which meant we would have had those temporary stop signs in the middle of A1A and 55-gallon drum. And so the decision was made at that time to repair them rather than wait 6 to 9 months. But they would have replaced 3 of the ones that came down during hurricane.
Lenore, can you get Ed a copy of those minutes?
Okay, thank you. That answers my question.
All right. Thank you. With nothing else before the CRA, this meeting is adjourned. We will go right into the city council meeting. Thank you. See you on the second. Once again, for those who have come in a little bit late, please, cell phones, please to off the vibrate. We've already had our moment of silence and our pledge. And Lenore, do you have? Can you give the citizens the signage? Thank you. I am guaranteed, or I have been at least alerted tonight that Councilwoman Dean did not move because of me. I wanted to be over there. Greg, she's in your seat, Greg. So,
I noticed that.
I know, so I just wanted to.
I need to be able to see you.
and Bill didn't want to move over. No, I don't know. All right, there are 5 members present. 1 member is on Skype for this city council meeting. And so, citizen recognition. Anybody in the audience who is here for the first time that would like to be recognized, you can stand up and introduce yourself. Okay, well, thank you. Citizens' comments. We only have one tonight, Mr. John Baker. Sir, good evening. How are you?
John Baker, 685 Grand Court. I have a problem. I suspect some of this audience, which have the same problem. About several weeks ago, I sent each of you a little email, and I requested that you use your microphone so we in the audience can hear what you would have to say. We want to know what you're talking about. We want to participate. Some of you completely ignore it. I would like to suggest that each of you, if you want to speak to each other, don't turn your head like this and the mic's way over here. Speak into the mic. Keep the mic that far from your mouth, not way out here. Don't sit back in your chair and expect us to hear you. We can't. That's all I have to say. Please use your microphones. That's what the little black thing in front of you is for.
Thanks, John. Okay, council comments. Let's start with Councilman Billman.
Well, hello. Thanks for putting up with my Skype input. I think this is great, though, that we can use technology to get to these ends. I was walking down the halls here today. I'm out here in Colorado Springs for the National Space Symposium, which is a gathering of senior military people as well as executives from space companies. And who do I see walking down the hallway but Commissioner Anderson, Commissioner Bolin, and Mr. Tipton from the county. Said hello to them, et cetera, et cetera. They're coming by this evening. We're going to see each other. Frank DeBella was here. So what I'm telling you is that the folks who do your county business are out here trying to keep the county going, and I think that's a wonderful thing. So that's all I have to say, sir.
Thank you. Councilman Higginson.
I attended transfer of Pelican Beach from the county to the city, and I want to extend my most sincere appreciation and thanks to all of those people that were involved in that transaction. It was certainly a historic event that we all should be very proud of, and very proud of our volunteers and staff who worked diligently to bring this about.
Thank you. Councilwoman Dean.
I do have some reports this evening. Number one, my heart goes out to Shannon Dragon. I don't say that name properly, the last name. Shannon is the wife of one of our firefighters, and she was recently diagnosed with an acoustic neuroma, which is actually the same brain tumor I was diagnosed with in 2008, and she underwent surgery. So my hugs and kisses out to the family, and I want to extend my warm wishes to her and her, which I believe is going to be a long recovery. I hope she's doing well. I recently saw on our that they felt that computers for the city council was a waste of taxpayers' money. So I asked that item be removed from the future agenda. It doesn't matter to me whether I have a laptop or not. I don't own one. But I thought I would assist in making the city paperless and save copy time and standing by the copy machine. So just wanted to let the council know that I did request that be on the agenda, but I did take it off. I also got the opportunity to attend the Charter Bay Luncheon, and I had the opportunity to sit with Pat Altman and Steve Foley, who gave the legislative update about the state of Florida. Very interesting. They had to make some cuts, make some very difficult decisions, but one of the things that was not educational to me, but it is tourism that sustains the state of Florida. And I think that Joe made a great point the other night when we were talking, we had our special meeting about let's make Satellite Beach a destination and bring in some of those folks that are coming to support. And the reality is that tourism is what helps sustain the state and is very important. And I also talked with Cindy Earp. Cindy was asked to be the moderator at our political forum this year. Cindy's a wonderful person. I'm sure she will do a great job. And I did stop by to see the vendor at Pelican Park, and they said they're doing pretty well. Sometimes busier than others. They had a snow gun, and that was great. And I think that's it for today.
Thank you. Vice Mayor Rose.
I also attended the transfer of Pelican Park, which was wonderful. Again, like Councilman Higginson said, the foresight of the folks 4 years ago by Phyllis Wood and Percy Hitchcock and those that went to Miami to request the purchase of the park, and now we have it forever in our city. It's wonderful. And also attended with the mayor, Mayor Ferrante, and the mayor of Indian Harbor Beach a couple days ago for Larry Guarino. For those who don't know who that is, he's a war hero. He was a prisoner of war in Hanoi, I believe, 2,801 days. A living hero. It was his 90th birthday. We honored him, and it's just wonderful to have someone like that in our community also. So,
yeah, that was great. And thank you for reading the proclamation. And it was just 2,801 days as a POW, Larry Guarino. That's a long time. I've been pretty busy. Space Coast League of City dinner a week ago, and Dr. Cabana from KSC was there. Things look good. You know, sometimes they paint the rosy picture, or sometimes they paint this picture. Did the 60-minute special everyone's a little bit upset with, because it really didn't tell what's happening. It showed Titusville, in a bad way. And speaking of Jim Crow, who's the mayor, it's just not, things are happening. Good. That was a great dinner. We had a special meeting last week. If you can hear it on the transparency, the council set its goals. Our goals, our number one goal with business, made it to the paper. Rick Neal put something in about what our goals were, and then a list of our other goals. We have 9 goals to accomplish, many involving each of you, and that's what we want to do. The signing of the beaches was great. The ribbon cutting, the hot dogs. I understand the burgers were vegetarian. Yesterday I went to the library. They had a volunteer appreciation. They have more volunteers, twice as many volunteers as people on staff in the library. It's a county library, but it's staffed with mostly Satellite Beach people, Indian Harbor, and the county. And it is our only board where we allow others from the community to be on that board. The last thing I do, one of the things that I like to do, I send letters of appreciation to people that have worked hard for the city. And but sometimes they just don't get the recognition. So I have in front of me 10 people who I haven't sent the letters to yet for one reason or another. And I just want to say that the list of names, I'm going to say them in alphabetical order, not what they did, but I just thank these people very much for all of their volunteerism. The list of 10 is over 100 years of volunteer activity, which can't do the math on that, but that's a lot. That's a lot. And it's just an alphabetical order. I'd rather like to thank these people, and then I will follow up with a letter. Sal D'Amato, Lorraine Gott, Jay Hempel, Dominic Montanaro, Linda Page, Harry Pollack, Steve Rutsis, Dave Schechter, Rodney Smith, and Ron Van Meter. And I'd just like to say thank you, each and every one of you, for tremendous years of service to this community. So, and that's all I have. So, and city attorney report. I have nothing. Just kidding. Oh, I didn't even say that.
Yeah, I checked it off.
Well, I left the plant sale on Saturday. I spent my money at the plant. To update on some of the items that have been pending, the number one is council's aware that we're going to have a more detailed update for the May 2nd meeting, but I emailed the attorney that I indicated, in Cocoa Beach that I indicated was representing a potential buyer, and he responded and said that the agreement is now pending before the bankruptcy court. I sent an email to Cheryl, and I think Mike sent it to everybody else too. Correct. And basically, the contract's been apparently executed, and it's before the bankruptcy court in Greenland, I think. And he doesn't know how long it should take, but it's going ex parte, which means it's not going to be there. So that he's still hoping that he's going to have some more information that they'll be able to close, I guess, before the next meeting. That's Satellite Arms. Cinnamon Court, which is the REM litigation. I spoke with Mr. Fujiru, who is the REM attorney, regarding the general discussion the council had and the idea of whether it's the REM. Can you hear me?
Can't hear you.
Okay. The REM's attorney indicated that the REMs would still be interested in potentially purchasing the city's interest in the end of the canal. When I inquired whether or not they had an offer to make, he said no. I guess basically for using a euphemism, he said his clients didn't want to take the first shot over the bow, so to speak. I told him that council is interested in considering all the ideas, and that he deferred providing that as a starting point. If the city wants to make an offer, then they would consider whatever the city's request, I should say what the city requests for purchase would be. As far as the issue regarding notification of the public regarding videotaping the meetings, I did look at the statute just generically regarding those types of issues, and there does not appear to be anything in the statute that would particularly relate to the issue. I didn't want to spend any great length or time trying to research it until I checked out with council. I mean, if council wants to, and it may be something that council would want to do, would just be to post a notice saying that, if you attend this meeting, that you will be subject to being videotaped or something to that effect. That may be the better way just to deal with it anyway. Rather than having me spend an inordinate amount of time trying to find a statute to go with it. The last issue that I have, which I think I had given an update to council before about CPAB and PZAB, the charter currently provides that they will be separate boards, but if council looking at doing charter amendments, that would be something that would have to be done in order. Not that you would say that they have to be, but basically just eliminate the provision in there that says that they have to be separate.
Do we have to have either board statutorily in the charter?
No, what happened was this has been in there, I think, since one of the major iterations of the statute, the Government Comprehensive Planning Act. And at that time, there was a provision that you have those two entities, or somebody, that you have a body doing both. And the city back then decided that it would have two separate entities. And I don't recall what the reason or the rationale was as to why it was put in the charter, but the city had decided that that's how they wanted to do it. So that there would be the CPAB to deal with the planning issue and the PZAB to deal with more day-to-day implementation type issues. And that's all I have.
How do we go about making the offer to?
I mean, council would have to have a conversation
as to what it would be. I mean, the idea would be that maybe we get somebody, I guess we'd have to have an appraisal of some sort, or actually I'm not really keen on appraisals, but formal appraisals. But just get a general idea as to how much that area, how much land would cost, so to speak, in similar proximity, and figure out what council would say we would like to receive this amount of money for that parcel of property.
Well, I think it's gracious of them to want to purchase it, but typically we vacate it, so I don't know if we need to bring that back for another next agenda to discuss again.
They wanted to have us fill out the first price book that I did.
Correct. If we chose to go down the path, because at the last meeting, we kind of did every phase, so to speak, to look at as far as addressing where we like proposing.
Jim, I just want to look at the videotaping. There's many municipalities and the county also videotape. What did they post?
I don't know what they do.
Okay.
That's what I'm saying. I'm just saying council may want to do that, and I can call around, maybe Paul. I actually called Paul, and I don't think number now.
And he does West Melbourne and
No, he doesn't do West Melbourne. He does Melbourne Beach, Indian Atlantic. Okay, and Melbourne.
I was wondering what the
And
county has.
Carl Bone does. He does Indian Harbor, Granville Ferry, and Melbourne.
Okay, but you think if we post something that will suffice?
Yeah, I'll look into it.
Okay, we'll do
If
that.
council wants to do that, I'll be happy to do that.
Yeah, we want to cover that.
Can we just put something on the webpage?
Stick it on the front door.
Yeah. Okay, city manager.
Following up on the videotaping, this evening, the meeting is not being streamed live beginning May 2nd. They will be, but beginning later this evening or first thing tomorrow morning, it will be posted, or the link will be posted on our website and the announcement made on the website page. Lenore is going to report on the city election, which is scheduled for November 6th.
We're going to have a city clerk's meeting in June to establish the procedures, and the packets will be given at that city clerk's meeting, which is generally the mid-month. So I plan to have a packet available toward the end of that month, and I'm going to start preparing what I already know is the current information and the forms and all that good stuff. We have one person that has applied already, and that is Joel Sugars. So he's provided his preliminary work at this time, and I will keep you updated and posted as we get more information.
Thank you. Is that all, Mr. Clinton?
And Councilwoman Dean had requested that I respond to an issue raised regarding the hiring and retaining of CPA. If that's all right with Councilwoman Dean, then I would like to provide it in writing and make the report at the May 2nd meeting, if that's okay, because I want to be sure that my research is reviewed by the city attorney before I make the statement.
All right, thank you. Thank you all. All right, agenda item number 7, the report of the KPEG. Ms. Craig.
Mr. French.
What, do you want to, what do you want
Working
to
like a spot on here.
Okay, good evening.
Good evening. KPIG report writing continues. Mr. Groom has the larger version of the report tonight. He's done quite a bit with it. We're going to bring that all back together tomorrow night at the 6 p.m. meeting. We're into the 30 or so page mark of the report. It's pretty well formatted. They're making good progress. There are some observations there, and there'll be also some ideas expressed regarding potential deep dives into specific areas at the conclusion of this particular panel mission.
I did read a report, but all of that is draft. Is that correct?
Correct.
Everything,
right.
And then
You will get a report that says final. No question that's a final report.
Okay.
And I thought we put draft on the top of it. So if it's missing, then
but I figured it was.
right.
That's
So
good.
progress is being made.
Let me see if the council has anything.
Okay.
Anything? Greg?
Will that final report, once it goes final and it's marked final, will that be loaded onto the transparency page?
We've put all their work products on the transparency.
Yeah, and then one other thing is that the council should accept it. You know, we don't have to agree with it, but usually what we do when we get a report is we accept it and then we'll put it on the transparency page. I think that would be the best thing. You accept it and then
Actually, the words we use are acknowledge and receive.
Sorry.
Yes.
Take up. Yeah, because we've got
motion and accepted reports, and some folks have interpreted that to mean that we've approved.
So once we acknowledge receipt, then we can do something in review.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
I have a question.
Good.
How much public input have you got? I haven't gone to any of your meetings, that's the reason I asked.
Well, frankly, we haven't had any council people at our meetings.
No, public input.
Public input, we have received ongoing public input from people who've attended the meetings.
Yeah, public comment,
Yes, public comment, it's an open style meeting. In other words, it's not run by Robert's Rules of Order. Anytime someone has an input during the course of our meetings, they're allowed to raise their hand, say, hey, I have a question, make a comment, things like that. We found that interactivity helped us produce and consolidate our ideas in a way that facilitated our goal.
Thank you. Good. Thank you. It's a great job. Thank you all the members of your board also.
What do you keep track of your hours and stuff too for everybody?
About $100. Definitely $100.
How much per hour?
Agenda item number 8, Mr. Cry.
Finance Director Brenda Raper will present this and introduce the item. Brenda? Yeah, I think.
Good evening, council members.
And Brenda, you could speak a little bit.
Sorry, can you hear me now?
Good evening. Yes.
Good evening, council members, and members of the audience. Tonight, Mr. McElrath is going to hand out some paperwork, and he will present options for the police and fire pension. Yes, it's quite small, sorry. Options for the police and fire pension board to go the transition into the FRS, which is the Florida retirement system. And we will present different options, and I will hand it over to him. There you go.
Sir, thank you for coming this evening and giving us this presentation.
Well, thank you very much. It's my pleasure to be here. And you probably know, given the economy that we've weathered for the last several years, cities throughout the state are looking at alternatives. Police and fire pension plans. The cost has risen. I think it was 3 years ago. Annual funding cost was in the $400,000 range for the upcoming plan here that it will begin October 1st, 2012, and end September 30th. We're looking at $765,000 contribution due. And the current status of the plan is that while I apologize for using the actuarial term, but the present value of benefits that have already been accrued under the plan are $12,262,000, while the current value of the assets in the plan are about $10,103,000. So we're showing a deficit of over $2 million. A lot of that, as you might expect, is due to the fact that investment performance, along with the stock market and other investments, including real estate, has been on some hard times in the last several years. So we began an investigation into alternatives. Chuck Carr, the actuary, and I initially explored a number of potential modifications to the current plan, wanting to exhaust those possibilities. And part of that that was the hope that the state legislature and the legislative session that recently ended would come back with some relief. There were some proposals before the state legislature that the Florida retirement system had some confidence might make it through this year that would have liberalized the rules on amending police and fire pension plans, allowing us to potentially go back to provisions that were prior to 1999 that may have been less liberal than the provisions of the plan now, subject to negotiation with the unions, of course, and reduce costs so that everybody benefits. The state legislature did not go down that road this year. It could happen in the future, but it didn't happen this year. So that left us with really very little we could do to modify the plan. The plan already has in actuarial terms probably liberal provisions in terms of, in effect, backloading the plan as opposed to front-loading costs. It's got a 30-year amortization schedule, for example, and the interest assumption is 7.5%, which gives the current state of affairs a high interest assumption. So I think we did a good job of developing those possibilities, but there wasn't anything there for us to really reduce costs. So that caused us to turn to possible allowance of an election, assuming more than 50% vote of police and fire participants, if they were to approve by more than 50% vote, the ability to transfer in the Florida retirement system. There would then be a second referendum where each participant could elect on an individual basis to go into the Florida retirement system. Those that did not want to go in could not be forced to go into the Florida retirement system. They could choose to stay in what is now considered to be a Chapter 175, Chapter 185 of the Florida Section Police and Fire Pension Plan. But at the time that offer of the Florida retirement system participation was made, to cease to terminate as a police and fire pension plan and become what's known as a local city plan. And the premium tax money that the city is currently receiving from the state to help pay the cost of funding the plan would stop. That's been about $170,000 a year. So that lost premium money, of course, would have to be taken into account, trying to determine what if any cost savings there might be by offering this new opportunity. And we ran those various scenarios. I'll resend this in bigger terms. Because it's a spreadsheet that it just didn't come out in a very large type. But the bottom line of what we're looking at here is the larger the percentage of employees that might choose to elect for retirement system participation, I think it's clear that more money that the city would save. And there is, particularly for the younger employees, I think there's a selling point for that kind of election because the current pension plan requires an 8% pay employee contribution. The Florida retirement system only requires a 3% pay contribution. Now, weighing against that, the city plan has a much more generous benefit formula. It's providing a benefit equal to 3% of average monthly compensation back to 30 years of service. In the Florida retirement system, the maximum benefit is 2% of pay. So what now we're struggling with, which could change some of these numbers on the bottom of these spreadsheets. I've been going back and forth with Joyce Morgan just recently today, who heads up the Florida retirement system pension department, as well as Chris Shoemaker, who heads up the Department of Management Services Fire Pension Administration. And there are incredible nuances involved in the purchase of past service. And as they explain, every situation is different and trying to calculate how much past service could be moved over. We do have the ability, depending on how much funds are available, to move both limited amount of tax service and going all the way back to original data hire. So those are the numbers that we're going to have to decide. But bottom line is, I think if we felt like a number of employees would be attracted to that transition, that would result in a cost savings to the city. Having said that, too, I should point out that I would have to sound some cautionary notes about the Florida retirement system, and that is once you're in, you're in. And you really not expect that there would be an opportunity that the state would offer an opportunity to come back out. And there is the thought that the state is currently artificially keeping the funding costs down in the Florida retirement system, given the current state of the economy. It's recently, the contribution rate this last year was 14.1%. Before that, it was 19%, and 2 years before that, it was 22%. And I understand next year it's going to go back up. In 2013 to 2014 year, back up to 19%. So the state may be kicking the can down the road a little bit in terms of funding. So that obligation could increase in the future. And there's also pending, as you may have seen in the newspapers, a lawsuit against Governor Scott by state employees claiming that the 3% required employee contribution is violating the state constitution, and actually the plaintiffs won at trial, and it's now on appeal. But the word I get is that there's a good chance that the state will lose that case, in which case the state will have to refund that 3% employee contribution to all state employees, and those employees comprise about 25% of the Florida retirement system. And so that differential presumably would be made up in the future with increased contributions. Let's see what else do I have. Another consideration that should be made is that when you go to the Florida retirement system, employees, I understand there's only 2 currently that are on drop. If you all know what that is, or you retire from the pension plan, or you move your lump sum amount into a defined contribution plan where it only earns interest thereafter of the 5 years that you have retired that continue on as an employee. Those drop employees, since they're no longer covered by a pension plan, are mandatory participants in the Florida retirement system. As counterintuitive as that might be. So in effect, there's going to be an extra cost there. Part-time employees also are mandatory participants to be signed off in the Florida retirement system. So I just throw out those considerations on that. And in terms of time frame, though, Trish Shoemaker points out that excuse me, shouldn't probably want to make any transition effective until August of this year in any case, because you've still got $170,000 in state premium monies that you're entitled to, as long as you wait to make a FRS transition, if in fact that makes sense. You still make that effective by August, and we'll obviously completed our studies well before that, and we'll still get those premium.
All right, so I'm going to bring it back to the council. We'll have some questions, and then see if we have any public comment. On that first. Go ahead, Council.
This is your expertise. Do you make presentations to government agencies like this, or for cities, and present this and try to educate the employees to join the FRS?
Well, my practice for 10 years, I was with the law firm of Julia Robinson, practicing exclusively in the areas of employee benefits and deferred compensation, and going out and form out consulting firms. So I do a wide range of benefits consulting, and I've lectured on for the State Board of Accountancy, and for the FICPA and others, have made presentations, for example, to the Fort Myers city council with regard to their fire department plan. And Broward Sheriff's Office for many years has been my client. Ray Robinson has consulted them on their police and fire issues, but as you know, they've taken over a number of the municipal plans down there.
Give a general idea of what we might anticipate if we do offer this to our city employees, the percentage of people who might like to join the FRS system?
My speculation would be that the younger employees don't have that much service to be attracted to potentially the reduced to 8% to 3% employee contribution, whereas the older employees that have considerable service might be very reluctant to go to the FRS or to this lower contribution rate. And the $64,000 question here too that I'm still trying to ferret out with folks at FRS and Shoemaker is the limitations on ability for an underfunded plan to buy that service. I do know that you're not required to drop that money all at once, that you put up 10% of the bogey for buying that service, and you can amortize the rest over from 10 to 15 years to give some flexibility. But still, I foresee in the next couple of weeks that we get the final numbers that there could be an issue with how much flexibility we have in offering that service that might make it more attractive to the senior employees.
Sir, I'm looking at your worksheets here, Excel sheets here. Do we have a figure on here? You've given us three of them. The study at 50-50 census, that's at half the employees.
Move to the floor retirement system.
And then an 80-20 and a 90, and then a 90-10.
80% moving to Florida retirement system and 90% moving.
What figure is most important to us as the council? Is it, or are we not there yet? How much we would have to contribute as a city to buy into the FRS?
Unfortunately, I have to say we're not there yet. The top two figures in each of those spreadsheets I think are pretty good numbers because we're using the 14.9% contribution rate that the FRS is going to use starting next year. And I'm multiplying that times, starting with the least senior and moving up, leaving the most seniors that are not in the Florida retirement system. So I think those top two numbers are probably pretty good, but depending on the final answers I get on past service, the cost to the city plan could be markedly different.
So when you have these figures, how long would it take us to transition? Because you said not by August, but I don't know if we can. If you give us the figures in June, I'm not sure we'd be there in August.
What he said is you don't want to do it before August.
Right. No, okay. I don't think we're going to be able to. It depends when we get the figures. Do you have a?
Well, I think we could get the figures potentially within final figures within a couple of weeks, and if we can submit a referendum, approval from the city to go into the Florida retirement system by the 15th of any month, employees can actually make that transition by the 1st of the next month. There's a package that we submit that includes the results of the referendum vote, a vote by y'all, and census information, which is really easily transmitted. And so the comment is that if they get that, they're ready on their end within a couple of weeks after that.
Greg, questions?
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Mayor. Mr. McElrath was a little garbled. That microphone there's a little garbled, but I could hear what the council was saying. So if these questions are doubles, please forgive me. Is it an all or nothing thing, Mr. McElrath? In other words, do all of our employees need to agree to join, or is it possible for some to and some not to? First question.
That's a good question. Actually, in the first referendum, The way that referendum is phrased is that we say, would you approve the city offering individuals to participate in the Florida retirement system without any commitment that you yourself would want to participate in the Florida retirement system? And if more than 50% approve that offering, then there would be a second referendum wherein the individuals would elect whether they want to make the move or not. And there is no all or nothing requirement. And actually, in point of fact, as long as you got the more than 50% vote in the first instance, theoretically you could have only 30% or 20% that actually move to the Board of Retirement.
Okay, thanks. And I'm sorry, my next question is, if let's just assume that everybody wanted to buy in, what would the buy-in cost be? Do we have the sort of numbers together so far to know what that cost would be?
No, that depends too on how much past service you would want to offer it. Again, if any. But past service, one popular choice is to try to go back 8 years, because there's 8-year vesting in the Florida Retirement System's pension plan. So if you could buy in 8 years of past service, then essentially participants would come in the Florida Retirement System virtually 100% vested. I say virtually. There is a statutory requirement that they still need to get 1 year in the system, even though they've got the 8 years from prior.
And Jim, that past service is at 2% unless some other provisions are made.
It can never be more than 2%. In fact, actually it's 1.6%, and the city can, as they say, upgrade that 1.6 to 2%. But I'm understanding that 4/10% incremental upgrade is relatively expensive.
That is the challenge. In the fire department census that was presented to you, there are what are classified as 5 senior employees, and their current benefit is at 3% for all their years of service. If they transition to the Florida retirement system, their past service would be at 1.6 or 2% max, and so it would be challenging for them to vote to move in just based upon the numbers. There was hope that there's going to be amendment at the state level with a high priority of the Florida League of Cities for police and fire to transition to the FRS to make past service at the same amount that they were earning under their local plans. The legislature looked at that, but there was no authorization last year or this year. So I'm sure it will be looked at again as pension reform continues. But that will be the major stumbling issue if you look at this, for a large percentage of the employees will voluntarily going into the Florida retirement system.
Right. Yeah, I understand.
Okay. Okay, third question. Do we have to make up our current underfunding in order to join?
No, but that current underfunding will not go away either. So that will ultimately have to be made up in some fashion.
Okay, thank you.
Great. Just for the since this appears to continue to be a work in progress, I think, and without hard figures, if you could come back, I think, and then we'd have comments so that we could evaluate it probably better on what the buy-in is, how the maybe some discussion on the referendum. I think we would get a better idea. So,
and the employees' pension plan, the police and fire voted to assist in funding this study, so we will have Jim go back and meet with them also to provide this information.
Absolutely.
I have a question, Jim. It's my understanding that the state plan employees that switch over to state plan that have a COLA, which we don't have in our plan right now. Is that correct?
That's my understanding as well.
That just becomes another selling point.
Brandon, do you have any? When do you think, sir, that you would be able to come back?
May 16th, is that your next?
It's our next, but it is a good day for us.
May 2nd agenda is getting full.
Yeah, 16th is a time that we normally meet.
I should think that's realistic.
Okay, we will see you on the 16th. I thank you for making the trip.
Oh, my pleasure.
Thank you. Well, it's still a work in progress.
Right, but
Kind of
he's not going to answer the question. He doesn't know what our question is.
Great, I'd like to do agenda item number 9.
Agenda item number 9 is discussion and consideration of referendum on requiring a super majority vote of the council for a millage rate increase. Councilwoman Dean has had on the list of future agenda items for a number of months, revision to the charter. She specifically asked that this one be brought forth at this meeting to discuss this particular item, and I would turn it over to her.
Can we go back? I just have a question. If there's an agenda item, don't we have to open it up to the public?
So you can, but this is like a table and we're.
Oh, it's table.
We just, bring it back. We don't even know where we're going. Okay. Go ahead. You have agenda item number 9.
I do?
Well, you want me to?
Yeah, you can vote. Yeah.
Let me grab mine.
Okay.
I put together some preliminary information as a result of receiving this for an agenda item, and specifically related to the issue of defining what the question is. Under Florida law, the truth in millage is somewhat difficult to understand for the average citizen, and even challenging for those of us who deal with it on a fairly regular basis. As you know, over the past several years, we've had increases in the millage rate where the bottom line to the city was less revenue, thus considered actually a tax decrease. But in other years, when the property values increase, we've actually decreased the millage rate, but have had a growth in the ad valorem revenue, thus having a tax increase. So if the council wishes to pursue this, the challenge will be is to define a question that encompasses what you specifically want to accomplish. In order to do that, I suggest that you look at the complete formula that determines the trim package. It's the tax rate, which is your millage, times assessed value equals total ad valorem revenue. Brevard County has wrestled with this issue for a number of years, and they amended their county charter. The citizens amended the county charter to address actual ad valorem revenue rather than specifically hone in on millage rates, which can fluctuate based upon economic trends. So staff's available to assist in preparing a question. In terms of a referendum on this topic or any other topic relating to a referendum that you would like to have scheduled for November 6th, probably have to have it in final form sometime in August at the very latest to get it to the supervisor election to place it on the November 6th ballot. So you do have some lead time, but not a lot.
Right.
And I know there's been some discussion on other charter amendments also, but I haven't received any specific requests.
There's a couple things I'd like to comment. First of all, on the last agenda item, I believe that the citizens should have the right to, if it's an agenda item, at least ask the questions so our consultant can take them down and come back with the answers. Second of all, this is not, even though I wanted this agenda item on the agenda, it's not my responsibility to present it. It's the city manager's responsibility. And I've had this happen to me a couple times. I'm not staff, I'm city council. I requested that it be on the agenda, and don't point to me to present the item.
Actually, then let me say, if you want it, the council should agree that we want to discuss it. So it doesn't just, it should not just even appear as an agenda item. 3 of us, we should say if you want it as an agenda item, then we'll just agree to discuss it. So why don't we see if we even want to discuss it? And then, I don't think it's up to the city manager to. The referendum came from you. The agenda item came from you. He can't put words in your mouth. What are you asking, and where is this being generated?
It's a discussion, just like we discussed a lot of other issues.
Then the council, see, we have things that we want to discuss on an agenda, and we discuss them, and they say, yeah, let's bring them up. This is just something that popped up, so we didn't even agree that we wanted to discuss it.
It's a discussion now. I'm not getting this. It happens all the time where we bring up items to discuss.
Well,
So-
yeah, but we usually mention them at one meeting and bring them up the next week.
Oh,
This is
that's
the
the
first time
inherent
I've
problem.
seen this, except for some emails that came in from some,
Okay, well,
some
do we
people.
want to discuss it
Where
or
did this,
not?
where did this?
Yes, let's discuss it.
Let's discuss
Where
it.
did
This was one of our goals last week. This is the reason why it came up.
This isn't a
One of
goal.
our goals last week was to,
Not a goal.
What goal was this?
one of our city council goals at our special meeting.
The goal, and that's when I did get the email, the goal was to keep the millage the same or reduce it, while attempting to
Maintain
maintain
services.
the same services.
I don't think it was maintain services.
Levels of service.
No, it wasn't even.
Oh, the Greg had a word
It
for
was
it.
infrastructure, it was police and fire. Because
It was to maintain fundamental services, police, fire, and infrastructure.
Right.
Not levels of service, but maintain those services.
We got away from the levels of service. But this is different. This is, 4 votes to raise the millage. So
But not exactly. After the city manager and I discussed it, there was some information that came out this afternoon. Brevard County has structured theirs differently. I didn't get a chance to review it all, but it's in their charter about, not exactly, I mean, might be probably explained better. It has to do with ad valorem tax and percentage increase rather than just whatever the city council would like. And that is in other charters. And I think it's a good item to discuss, and because of the time frame to get to the supervisor elections, I think it's going to be done quickly.
Let me, for council's information, the turnaround time on this was short. I did prepare a report presented to Councilwoman Dean and wanted to make sure that I was on the same wavelength of what her ideas were in requesting. So I prepared a memo dated April 17th, so it was a short turnaround time, identifying several issues. Brenda put together Finance Director Brenda Raver put together a memo trying to give a brief tutorial on majority vote, super majority vote, referendum, and tax limits under TRIM. And I also provided a copy of limitations on the growth in ad valorem tax revenues. Brevard County doesn't specifically look at millage, but they look at the bottom line of ad valorem, because millage really is not a true indicator of whether taxes go up or down. As I indicated, there's examples in both areas where it goes up as a tax increase and where it goes down as a tax increase. And that's because of economic conditions. So, as I said, this was just sent yesterday. I prepared it one evening.
Well, wait a second. I agree with Mike about the taxes, but the tax rate is the tax rate. That's the millage rate, and I think that's what's on the table tonight. And I think we can give our citizens the benefit of the doubt, and they can understand the difference between a tax rate increase and an actual tax increase with regard to the amount of money that actually comes out at the end of the day. So I think we need to give them that benefit of the doubt. And as we're discussing this, I think it would be good to add also to a supermajority requirement fee increases such as fire fees and those sorts of things, as well as the utility tax right now, which goes into our ad valorem. We can put all of these explanations that Mike was just talking about, all of those explanations about the difference between millage rate and revenue on the ballot. But I believe that our citizens understand the difference between a tax rate increase and revenue increases.
So what we're talking about here is you want to formulate a supermajority on, I don't care what it's millage rate, the bottom line tax rate. Basically what that ends up doing is it gives budget control to any minority group sitting on this council.
How is that if it's a supermajority, Bill?
It gives the control on the budget because if it's a supermajority, you need 4 votes. If a minority group can vote against it, 2 votes against it, and every budget process stops right there.
So it's the same thing, Mike Crotty's job. A minority can vote to keep Mike Crotty in. I mean, it's the same idea.
I don't know if that has anything to do with it one way or the other.
Well, no, but what we're getting at here is a supermajority, a 4 to 5 cents of council, that we would like the citizens of this city to be able to determine whether or not their millage rate should increase and whether or not fees should be, entertained.
I think there's probably a little bit of confusion when you use millage because it doesn't really, millage can increase, but ad valorem tax will decrease. So that has to be clarified. But this is really, I think this is important. I would like, I guess, the city council to vote to see if we want to discuss it further and consider a charter change in a referendum.
I see. I know we had a charter review committee. I got a copy of it here a couple days ago. It slipped by me a couple years ago when everyone's going through it. A lot of time and effort was put into it, and I'm trying to understand some of the reasoning behind them changing specifically two things were changed to a supermajority on the referendum, and I believe all the referendums were passed in 2009 as part of the election. I think this is real important. I know that when Bill and Joe and I were elected in 2009, we went through the budget process, and from my recollection, I believe that Joe and I voted against the millage increase, and the other 3 council members voted for it. And then this past year, I believe I was the only one out of 4 that voted against the millage increase. I don't think by giving supermajority deadlocks everything. I think that it causes us to have to work harder and reach a consensus of the people who elected us to come to a fair millage rate. And I don't think that the thing about a millage rate increase could be a tax decrease, and that's just convoluted to general citizenry. But I believe all of us up here understand that pretty well and the implications of that. And again, I know that we passed, I think last year, I think by the majority of the council members, the ability to have a fire assessment, which we've never implemented. And I think we may want to look at that also by a supermajority, because it's a huge impact on our citizens for taking money from them to fund the city functions.
And just, there are other charters that have the supermajority vote for city managers. It was to prevent a knee-jerk reaction after an election, so that after an election, if things change, the city manager isn't, dismissed immediately after, the new council comes on board, and then typically they'll go back to a majority vote after that, or during the process. So that's why that is put into a lot of charters. It's not just our charter that has that, but
I just like, just a couple of inputs. One, I think a supermajority, it doesn't really matter. I think what it does is a supermajority vote puts more power right here in the middle seat. So thank you. Because I would probably be the 4th vote, one way or another. Which means that what goes on with the other 4 is, probably not the best. But I go back to the KPEG. When we selected members of the KPEG, I asked you guys to consider a supermajority vote for members on the KPEG. And each one of you gave me such a hard time on supermajority votes, saying, hey, it's we're all elected. I don't think any of us have an agenda anymore. I think the agenda is the city. Supermajority votes, I think, limit abilities of 3-2 votes in council members. I really do. I'm not sure also where this referendum is coming from. I did get some emails from some Tea Party people that wanted to put that had a referendum. I'm not sure if this was it. But if it were, I'd like them to come forward and to discuss this themselves, rather than for us to try and, toss it in the air to try and figure out what they really mean.
Well, I think there's a big difference between appointing a citizen to a board and our tax tax rate. We're second highest millage rate in Brevard County.
We are.
I just don't, and I'm not a Tea Party member, so I don't appreciate that accusation.
Or where did this come from?
Because I think it's important, because one day, Joe, I woke up and looked at my tax bill and said, what the heck's going on in Satellite Beach?
But it's not, sure, I don't disagree with you. I said 4 can raise it, but 3 can raise it too. We're 5 of us. If 3 want to do it, I think you're tying hands. It's not, because the next thing is going to be, then you want 4 for this, then you want 4 for that.
Mr. Mayor?
Go ahead.
Mr. Mayor, if I can ask a question, how do you see the difference in between the 4-to-1 vote for the city manager job and the 4-to-1 vote for the taxes that our citizens have to pay? What's that difference? Why is one okay to be 4-to-1 and the other one isn't?
Well, one is a personnel issue, the other one is a citizen issue throughout the city. That's the major difference. And when you get to the budget process, and the bottom line is how much taxes you collect in order to functionally work that budget. And nothing to do with the city manager, one way or the other.
Actually, when you get to the budget process, that's been the problem in the city. The issue when you get to the budget process is not just the amount of revenue you can bring in, it's the expenses and the cost of doing government. That's the side we need to start looking at. I still don't get why a 4-to-1 vote is okay one way and it's not okay the other.
Okay. Oh, well, one other thing, I go back to last year's budget and we were all, in the room, different people were up here. It was at 8.2 and, it was voted on at 8.5, 4-to-1. You're right, Scott. But what was on the table at the time was if you do not approve the 8.5, the only thing that was available to cut then was public service, police or fire. So, and I think that was the 3-to-1 or the 4-to-1 vote. So I think you just limit yourself. Like I said, it doesn't, I'm not sure, it has to come to a referendum vote. I think if you start supermajoritying everything that you could think of, you limit what people have elected the 5 of us for.
I agree, Mr. Mayor. I agree if you have a 4-to-1 vote for most things, I agree with your concept. But what we're talking about here is a 4-to-1 vote for a very important issue. And that is how we tax our citizens. Just that one issue.
I agree.
That millage rate is only part of the tax package.
Exactly. That's what I had said earlier, that when we put things into the equation, the citizens can understand things beyond just the millage rate. We got to give them credit for that. And it's still going to be us. It's still going to be the 5 of us talking about it. All we're doing here is asking the citizens of this city if they want it to be a supermajority of us to have to make the decision with regard to taxes, all taxes, fees, everything.
Now you're talking budget, you're talking fees. We're not just talking millage rate. So, Mayor is correct. It has moved now from 1 item to 2 items to 3 items to 4 items to 5 items.
All those items are taxes, whether they're ad valorem or not ad valorem. We discussed this the other night, and Brevard County, again, I just don't understand why the pushback, and I would appreciate if the council would vote, and we can discuss it further with some more data behind it.
Okay, let me get some public input.
We're just
Well,
discussing it.
Yeah, let me get some public. All right, at this time I'd like to open agenda item number 9 for public comment. Remember, you have 3 minutes. If you could come up and speak into the microphone, please, and name and address. Mr. Taylor. Oh.
White French 240 Colonial Court. What's on the table is a supermajority required to raise millage rates. That's what's on the table. Doesn't require a supermajority to lower them. Doesn't require a supermajority to keep them the same. Now, and I understand the confusion people may have about ad valorem taxes and why a millage rate reduction could actually be a tax increase for them. Well, and I'm one of those people. I bought my house. We bought our house. All right, 25 years. A long time. And each year our taxes go up. All right, whether there's a millage increase or not. Okay, and for those folks that bought their houses, say, 6 years ago, every year their taxes go down, whether there's a millage increase or not, because of the way it's all adjusted. All right. However, if the millage rate goes up, I know my taxes are going to go up. I know they're going to go up because they go up every year. It has to do with, the value of my home when I purchased it versus what it's appraised at now. It occurs to me that a supermajority where you control the raising of the millage rate is going to benefit both people. Okay? The people whose taxes go down as a result of the millage rate staying the same, they're going to save money. The people whose taxes go up as a result of the millage rate staying the same are still going to benefit. It's a little bit more painful for them than it is for the folks at the upper end of the scale where the rates are coming down. So you are controlling the impact to all the citizens by requiring a supermajority vote on millage rates. You are also controlling it by not mandating a supermajority vote for keeping the millage rates the same or lowering. So it sounds to me like you are all really smart people. If you see that we need more money in the coffers to meet minimum requirements to sustain services at an acceptable level, you're going to make that decision because that's what you're essentially elected to do. Where we run into an issue, all right, is when the city manager, who we hire and can fire with a supermajority vote, he's the guy that hands you the budget. He says, here's what we need. We can't get any lower. Okay? This is what we got to live with. Do you folks go out there and do the numbers? No, you're relying on this person who requires a supermajority vote. Oh, okay. But anyway, I just want to thank you. You know what that sound was. Okay.
It's louder. Any other public comment? Thank you.
Michelle from Stuboy Colonial Court. I just have to say that I think once that I have heard over and over again how when the budget came out last time around that there was nothing that could be cut other than services, which got everybody in the city in an uproar about possibly losing police, fire, whatever. I think when the KPEG is done, you will find there are plenty ways that this city can reduce its spending and have more money available. And those are the things that need to be done before we start raising taxes and say we need more of this. You can't just go with what the city manager says the budget is, and when someone wants something that's not a necessity and agree and vote on it to go through. You have to think wisely and look at the bigger picture and not just, we can't do away with anything. You have to give and take, and you have to give on this end of it.
Good evening, Ron Trigutis, 620 Ocean Street. I respect this item coming on the agenda, but as with the previous agenda item, y'all got a handout in regards to issues with the police and fire pension. Citizens didn't have anything posted on the agenda packet on the site. I don't recall that was posted, what was handed to you. And then this agenda item, I guess there was some correspondence from the city manager. That wasn't posted on the agenda. I can't fathom this right now. And it does need more discussion. For instance, Lloyd brought up bringing it down. I'm not talking supermajority or not right now. I need time to think about it.
Thank you. Other public comment?
Wasn't going to say anything on this, but David Billman, 690 Jackson Court. I usually consider myself an optimist, but I've turned into a real cynic. I do not trust my council in many ways, and so for me, if my council and my city is coming to me and saying that they need more money, I think they need to make a valid enough argument that they can convince 4 of you up there that we do need that money. And if you can't convince 4 of people that are sitting in those chairs, whether it be today or it be 10 years from now, then I'm not sure our city really does need that money, and I don't know that the citizens should have to pony it up. So that's not a very nice thing to say, but it's true.
Other public comment? Okay, I'll bring it back to the council for action, discussion. What you want to do?
Well, I'm not willing to make a decision tonight.
Okay, Mike, let's see.
We looked at one of the things we want to look at in the future is some charter issues. And I know there's at least 1 or 2 others that I'd like, not related to this necessarily, but things in the charter that I'd like to look at, discuss. I don't know if we can put this in a special meeting, but of course the timeliness, if we want to get it on the November ballot, because the next election is 2 years after that. So if we want to look at possibly putting something on there, we need to.
Let me ask Jim. I remember when we had the charter, we had to get it, just the words on the 75 words, we had to get it at the supervisor of elections. What's the time frame to get these moving?
I'm deferring to Mike because he's already indicated he's looked at what the time frame was. In previous years, it's usually, you should have it done by August to get to the supervisor's election.
I have the old charter review committee here, and it said the questions must be provided to Brevard County Supervisor elections 76 days before the election, August 19th, 2009.
So 76. I think they've increased that a couple of days, but probably last meeting in July.
I think you need to do it quick because it's a presidential election this year. I think.
Yeah, well, that's the latest because Jim has to do it because it has to be within 75 words and it can't be one of these. We try very hard not to make it a question that is leaning one way or the other. You know, that you don't want in the top one, do you? You know, it's like, you don't want this right. No, yes, no, maybe that's what I'm saying. So, can we send it back to you, Mike? What's a good date? May 16th?
Also, too, there is data that I just received yesterday that I didn't even have time to really get through because I was on the road today.
Because there is millage. We have to discuss millage, because if you just say don't increase the millage, that's
why
not one quarter of the issue.
Can I just bring up a couple issues, and Councilman Dean brings up a good point. Still a learning process on how each of the new and even the existing council members, because things have changed. And so typically when I get a request for information, I provide it back directly to the council member, unless that council member says share it with everyone. And on the short turnaround, that's why the council, Ron, you're referring to the council had this. The council did not have this. I just sent it to Cheryl late Tuesday, I think it was. Yeah. And it actually took quite a bit of time to put this information together from last Tuesday night. As I pointed out in the memo, if it's simply an issue of a supermajority vote to raise the millage, the city attorney can craft that question very easily. But if you want to go to the extent of what Brevard County is trying to do in terms of controlling the bottom line in terms of government expenditures, then it becomes much more difficult to phrase the question. So, basically what I heard tonight, maybe it's as simple as for this vote if you're going to raise the millage. That question is easy to grasp.
And I agree, Mike, and the only other addition I would say, well, let me say this. That is the simple question. The only thing I would add to it is the fee increase, or fee introductions as well. And I would like the city attorney to put together a straw man of a potential referendum wording and bring that back to council at the earliest opportunity. That's my input.
I think the vice mayor would like to have a workshop. I think what we should do, because he wants to look at other parts of the charter. And I think we could do that with all that. Usually on the last workshop, we combined two things. I think that would be, because he wants to add some other, discuss other parts of the charter.
I know, and I also do too, and number one, I mean,
Okay.
December to do that, but I think these could be, this could not be tied in with all the other charter revisions, which is going to take a lot of, level of discussion, and, they may not even go forward this year.
So we make a motion?
No. Just a minute. Is there a reason that we did not combine this with other charter provisions? There's no timeliness on it. Some of the people have said there'd be separate questions that we put on the ballot. You can't combine them. No, I mean discussion on charter.
Well, this is not really a change to the charter, it's an addition to the charter. We may not even amend the charter, who knows?
Mr. Mayor, just to come to this meeting,
Just to get this moving, I mean, conceptually to me, the issue regarding the CPAB and the PZAB, that's not a big deal. I can have an ordinance for council to look at relatively quickly on that. This issue, conceptually, I don't have a problem with as long as I know what council really is trying to accomplish. If the council's looking at just a raw data millage rate issue, that's very straightforward and that's very simple to do. If council wants to look at it as how it looks at the bottom line, like the county does, and I've indicated before, I don't have problems plagiarizing from other ordinances. So I mean, obviously, I don't remember the context of how the county did theirs, but I mean, obviously we can go back and pick up verbiage out of the county charter if that's something to look at. And, so I mean, I could have something for the council to look at if they want to workshop it or however the council wants to deal with it. I can at least have something for the council to look at.
Okay, when?
Tell me. I mean, I don't know when you intended to have a workshop or whatever.
Well, it wouldn't be before May 2nd.
I mean, I could have it before the next meeting.
Okay, so why don't we do that by the next meeting? So, we can have a motion, but the city attorney has offered to bring it back, draft it, and then bring it back, and then we'll discuss it when he brings it back. As opposed to the motion, if we have a motion, it could maybe leave out something, or Jim's going to bring it back on the 2nd, and we can discuss it then and vote on it then. I
think that'd be great. The only thing I would ask, Mr. Beadle, is that you also include in there not only the simple millage rate increase, but the fee introductions as well.
If I may, Mr. Billman, I would recommend that when you get back to give me a call so we can make sure that I get all of what you're trying to capture. And I'll just prepare alternate ordinances for both of them.
Okay, actually, I'm on my cell here too, Jim, so you can give me a call whenever you'd like.
Okay.
Thanks.
You're just a little broken on that, and I think that's why. You were a little broken. Okay, all right. Are we good with that? Thank you. Thank you for working through that.
Follow up on an additional item, follow up on Cheryl's comment. If council has no objection, they're still feeling the process through that, I've been reluctant to send, council members identify an idea or an issue. I send back reports that don't necessarily, agree or compliment or maybe offer alternate suggestions. If no one has a problem with that, I have no problem whatsoever sharing that with the other members of council because I believe they're constructive input and I think it's presented in a positive way. So if no one has an objection, that may encourage discussion in a more timely manner.
Yeah, that might have helped with the one here.
Yeah, and then because I know a couple of our emails back and forth, for example, on the rec piece, I just wouldn't have felt comfortable until I knew how you felt about it. But if you don't have any objections, we can provide that information directly to the entire council.
I just think we have to watch a reply.
Oh, no replies, but it's my report back on.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, because the replies then we are.
Because I'll get even Councilman Higginson, he does an email, but he will call and, our discussions aren't always on the same page either, but in sharing those ideas, if no one has a problem, it might help the discussion.
I'd ask you to put that on your email too, that do not reply, because, I'll see something, I'll say, hey, Mike, what's going on? And then, you may get reply. Okay, thank you.
This would have been helpful to have this in the.
Well, and by the time
I do think, just one thing, I do think it's okay if we reply to Mike. We just have to be careful that we don't reply to each other, as I understand Sunshine Law.
Correct. Okay, thank you for the citizen input on that item. Agenda item number 10 is, fire department report. Good evening, chief.
Gotta wait till I talk to the mic.
I understand.
Just a quick update for you, and Mr. Bill, I'm so sorry my back is towards you. But Mr. Quaddy asked me to give you a quick update on the repair of the 1996 fire truck. It is at Green Power in Palm Bay, and we anticipate taking delivery of it on Friday, maybe Monday at the latest. But Friday is the anticipated date for that, and we're staying on the $25,000 threshold that was provided. And the other item for update was the service agreement with Brevard County Fire Rescue for fleet maintenance. That item, the language that Brevard County provided to us, that went to the city manager for review. It was sent back and it has been returned to Brevard County for them to finalize it out. And we're anticipating a report back to you with a final document for approval or whatever on May 16th.
All right, let's get some council comments and then some citizen input on the agreement and the fire. Sounds good for the fire. Anybody?
I'm excited about it. I'm glad that the business is going to stay local and be on a maintenance schedule. Just one question, does this go to the county commission first and then back to us, or?
They will, I believe, they will want us to approve it.
Okay.
You feel good about it? You think it's going to be possibly better than what we have? I think that it's going to be more efficient because our service provider who comes from Sanford, so he will be doing something local. So I think from a pragmatic standpoint, it's a little bit of a cost savings in some areas, others it's not. But at the end of the day, but from a pragmatic standpoint, yes.
And it opens the door for greater cooperation and working together in the future to maybe lower both of our bottom line.
Good. Hey, Don, Chief, I only have one question. Mobile repairs, if they're gonna come here, it's $100. What if he comes here and says, I gotta come back in 2 weeks? Is it, and it doesn't say, is it a one-time charge, or he says, I gotta come back in 2 weeks with a wrench, and then I gotta come back in 2 weeks to the bank?
Well, if anybody knows me, it's a one-time charge.
Well, I know that
is my current provider, and we can make sure that gets added.
Because it just says, plus $100 trip charge. I just wanna make sure that one trip. Yeah,
that's a valid point, and we can follow through on that. I mean, I will tell you that with our current vendor, that's the way it is. It's a one-time charge. You need something else, that's on your dime.
I know, but as we found out, current vendor is good, but we need to provide for the next until rescinded.
No worries. We can.
I'd like to see that someplace in our payments. Anything, Greg?
No, sir. Thank you.
I'd like to open this for public comment. Okay, and then I'd like to bring it.
I have to, Lloyd Barnes, 240 Ford, I just have to ask the question, how much under the 25K limit?
$1.
I believe we're going to be at 24-1 in that ballpark.
Great, I'd like to bring it back to the council for a motion for the agreement.
I move that city council approve.
You don't have it in final form at this point, so you may want to wait till you see it. The county attorney comes back with any changes or things that might be considered showstoppers.
Okay.
I don't believe they will. They're very anxious to get going with it also.
But we definitely want to press forward.
Yes.
I'll make a motion that we press forward.
All right. President, thank you, Chief.
I second that.
Chief, I was telling the Vice Mayor about a push-in when we get the fire truck back. Are we having a push-in?
You know, I actually had a consideration that it's almost like we're getting a new truck, so. But yeah.
Everybody stands at the fire department and we push the truck back in.
As long as we don't know it yet.
From the new engine. Okay, we're not doing it. Okay, forget it. Okay. Agenda item number 11, Mr. Pratty.
We opened bids for bids for Cassia Phase 3, which is the final project in the Cassia Drainage Basin. And the low bid was received from Massey Corporation. They are the firm that did our north drainage line, and their bid was $1.155 million plus an alternate of $99,000 to repay Cassia. This is several $100,000 under the engineer's estimate, and the total grant amount was $1.5 million based on a 60-40 share. It's going to be very challenging to undertake this grant because we were turned down on the TMDL grant. There was limited funds statewide. However, we've been spending a lot of time to see what funds we will have available that the council could authorize transfer for. This is a very important project. It will eliminate about 300 hours of annual maintenance for the Cassia ditch that is continuing to erode. This plus, over the past 2 years, we've devoted over 220 hours of personnel to fixing holes, sinkholes, and breakage in the line from the open ditch to the ponds in front of City Hall. Those are under concentrated repairs. We have another project that's underway. Also, this project will replace the existing pathway that abuts the driving lane of Cassia and will move it back off the roadway. And also, we will receive some TMDL grants some TMDL credits as we move forward for future projects. And finally, it removes the about 300 hours of annual maintenance that we have on the ditch each year. So we're hoping to be able to come back with a recommendation to proceed with this at our next second meeting. This is a huge project to finish the Cassia Drainage Basin, and you will see significant improvement along Cassia.
How much was the TMDL grant going to be?
Well, the TMDL grant restructured the formula through the Section 319 grant. It would have minimized our local match, and it is available again in July, and we're eligible to reapply. However, we've had several extensions on the Section 319 grant, and we're receiving pressure from the Department of Environmental Protection to finalize this project. And this would have reduced our local match by about $125,000. You recall, though, we got $185,000 from Brevard County to undertake this project, and that would be used to replace that walkway along Cassia. So we're very close.
What's the drop dead date? May 26th? Contract sign?
May 22nd, I believe. So we have to make a decision May 2nd, and we'll have a recommendation for you.
Yeah. One more. The resurfacing, the milling and the resurfacing in the amount of, $20,000. That, just so council knows, is not and was not part of the grant. Or the grant funds. That's a separate add-on thing. You know, basically that milling and resurfacing can be done in the budget year 2013, 14, or it can be extended beyond that. You don't have to do it.
We're looking at all those line items to see if we can, the cost. So,
The last couple of drainage projects we've done over the last 2-3 years, are those all TMDL grants?
No, we've not received the TMDL. They're Section 319 grants, 60/40. So, DeSoto Phase 1 and 2, Jamaica, Jackson, Cassia Phase 1 and 2, and now we're in Cassia Phase 3. The next projects that we identified for the Section 319 grant program is the Glenwood Drainage Basin that we're calling Lori Lane improvements. And the other major drainage project, our $1 million project, North Drainage, that was that FEMA hazard mitigation grant, 75-25, 75% from the feds, 25% local, and the county, school district, and city shared that cost.
To reapply for this grant, we just take the same paperwork and hand it to them, or do we have to get
I don't
grant
know that.
people to redraw it up? And
I don't know that. Depends what the guidelines are at that particular time. Chances are it's going to be very similar.
Can Clinton Hampton help with that effort?
Actually, that grant stays in the cycle
Oh, okay.
for three cycles. If we wanted to amend it, we could amend it. But in speaking with the representative from the TMDL side of the DEP, she said that we ranked fairly well. I mean, we were in the middle, but they only had a limited amount of funds for it because it was at the end of their fiscal year.
It was about $1 million statewide.
Maybe we'll be at the top of the list.
Yeah.
Next cycle.
And we were requesting $372,000 out of $1 million to make it happen for us.
The challenge with waiting until July is that, moving forward.
And if I remember, Massey too, if we, when it comes up, if they still are the low bidder, they took one of our stormwaters that someone else could not complete and completed that for us.
No, that was Luchetti.
I won't say it. Yeah. I was going to say, Goomba is all I can say. I guess I said it. Okay, so you're going to come back with us with the...
Trying to build up enthusiasm, but this is big.
Okay,
The
water
part.
No, I think that more than anything, the maintenance is a big issue because right now we have a sinkhole right in front of the church. So, we know we have a failing system. I think the biggest issue for me is the sidewalk because I know people that live on Ocean Spray. I know people that live on Greenway that don't let their kids walk to school because they don't want them walking along the road. And I think that's the biggest issue for me.
And we're going to ask the council, for example, the council budgeted $30,000 for a efficiency study. We didn't spend that. Now, granted, I think the council earmarked some beach caster funds for it. However, we'll have probably $25,000 if we want to put it towards this project. We have some vacancies that we haven't filled. And so I think it rises to that level to try to find every penny to do this and get this project done and complete the entire task.
Do you think we have a better chance? Well, I guess it'll be too late with the grant to reduce the amount of funding we're requesting.
Well, and I think if we could get approval to move forward, once you start, then the TMDL grant would not apply.
Oh.
Hey, it says this is informational purposes only.
Yeah,
Make
there's
this
no
an
action
item. Agenda item number 12, the Manstorm. Did we put that to bed in the CRA? Okay, agenda item number 13, budget issues. What do you got?
Just the information that was received from Jim Ford's office that our preliminary assessment figures are up 2.3%. And if you take a look at the information that he put out, our numbers are substantially higher than even other beach cities. I think one thing has contributed to this, and we talked about this under a previous agenda item under budget issue, and that is that Jim Ford was contemplating, again, taxing the 200 acres that comprise the Pelican, former Pelican Coast property because of how they've changed their status in terms of renting to non-military. At least they've indicated they changed their status. That has been their position. They've always had that capability as part of our issues in challenging the original tax exemption. We have not seen the figures yet. They haven't released them, but we're up 2.3%. The next highest increase was 1% in Indian Harbor. So it's good news, at least from the standpoint that we could have some additional funds based on, especially if that's growth money. That's new revenue for the city.
Any other council members have any budget issues that you'd like to bring up?
I don't know if this is good. We all get the, I don't know if it's monthly or not, the Florida League of Cities, Quality of Cities report. This last issue, March, April was filled full of CRA things and bringing businesses to your cities. And these other cities have done some things. I think it's hugely important. I know that we have the consultant group helping us out with some CRA issues, writing a plan, and things like that. I think it's a huge issue to try to do everything we can as fast as possible to get that 100 acres up there, if we're able to rezone it, to change the comp plan, to get it out there. That's going to save us a lot of tax monies and things like that and move us forward. You know, I know that we're looking to get some more businesses for the bowling alley and the Dairy Queen and things like that, but that's just a huge chunk of land. And I know that former Mayor Brimer, when he ran for city council this past term, that was his big number one thing, is to get that back on the tax rolls and things. So I don't know what we can do as a council to move forward with that.
Well, I agree with Rose. You know, it's an enormous piece of property, very valuable, and not to have how you can build, what you can build in place. The developer comes into this city and you tell them, well, we don't have a plan for that 100 acres and you may have to wait 9 months before we can come to some conclusion on it. And he's bye-bye. You gotta have something in place to make it attractive for the developer, or whatever you want to call it. When they come in here, they know what the ground rules are for that piece of property. And right now, we don't have it.
I concur with Mr. Higginson, and I also add to that discussion the Peg Leg property with the same idea.
I agree with that too.
Well, one is not CRA,
Yeah.
so we have to handle them 108, but I think the process would be the same.
If I could offer some input, I talked to Jim LaRue, who's worked with the CPAB on the comp plan amendments that are coming forward. He did indicate that there are some recommended changes to the transportation element that would encourage business to locate to Satellite Beach. And he also indicated that he would be willing, or would be more than willing, to sit down with the council in a workshop session to explain the existing comp plan amendments, but also look at future land use issues relating to the 100 acres. And if you want to put something in place, the sooner the better, because it is future land use amendment can take up to 9 months. He believes that could be shortened now because where DCA is at in terms of community planning. And this might be an item for a workshop that we could dovetail in with the discussion on a referendum, and maybe even do it before May 2nd.
And I know, Scott, we've been talking about a hotel in the city where, almost 18 months now, and we're just not going anywhere with that. And I think the former council, and I haven't polled this council, but I think that they're in favor. We need a hotel, maybe for some sort of, something on that 100 acres to bring in people. And, we need to press with them, because we're just going to go another year. We're going to be sitting here going,
what do we do?
Yeah. Okay. And so let's figure out how we're going to press on that in pending issues. Agenda items for next regular council meeting. You have a slew.
Well, you have the items that are listed here on the proposed agenda under agenda item number 14. We will add again, the naming of the barrier island. We received another request today. We got one last week. The issue is if the council wants to take no action and not consider it and not respond, the geographic naming division will take that if you have no opinion, no input, or you say you don't want it named. So you even want it on the agenda.
We've beaten this thing to death, right?
Well, we're not going full speed now, we're not going eyes.
So, just take it off the agenda.
So we won't respond, and that's no big deal. Hopefully we'll have two agreements from Brevard County, the fire chief's interlocal agreement, and then also an agreement addressing an interlocal agreement that's been on the books for over 30 years relating to the installation of sewer lines when sanitary sewers were put in the city, and the city negotiated an agreement for repairs as a result of sinkholes, as a result of the line. And we just want to bring it to the conclusion. The county has a proposal, how it's been worked, so we want to run it by the council. We'll have the update on the satellite arms. We'll have the final report of the efficiency panel. We'll have the award of the bid, hopefully, for Cassia Phase 3 drainage project. And we have Mary Boleyn coming in to give thanks to her for all her work in encouraging staff to work very diligently with the city. She was unable to attend the meeting last Friday night in our county division. We thought that would be appropriate. And then the items that we have highlighted on yellow and on the agenda packet, we are ready to move forward with them. Staff's ready to put them on the agenda. And if other items that are not highlighted in yellow you would like to have brought forth, let us know and we will work on them and try to get them on the May 2nd. So please identify the ones in yellow you'd like moved up to.
Well, I have a new.
Okay.
We've talked a lot about transparency in the city government. A lot. And I would like to see, to ensure that transparency in the city government, I'd like to see council emails, if anybody regarding city business, be put on the city website.
Sounds good to me.
Okay.
Any,
back to the
Off the public records request, we have to download one of this.
back to the pending issues.
Although, I do have one concern, and we had email about this regarding, there was a police report sent out that was supposed to stay among city council. I have concerns about all the emails going out, because we were specifically told not to disclose that information or discuss it, so legally.
With that city business, so that's.
It's still on city email. So, Jim, that might be a question for you, can all emails go out?
Personnel issues.
Huh?
Really personnel issues.
Well, that's hard for him, that's hard for the staff, I think, to monitor, which.
It's a judgment call, and and that's why I tell the council I'm reluctant to put some personnel issues in emails because they are public records, and many times those issues have not been fully vetted or resolved, and so. But it's something there's issues there that need to be discussed.
Maybe you need to look into that.
But there are some governments who do it.
Well, that was my suggestion.
Bill, it sounds good, but I think that some people just, they like to write you a letter and let you know, and I don't know if you.
I can write you a letter, but
if it's
email.
good, if it's good to say, hey, I don't think that.
No, this isn't coming in, it's going out.
What do you mean? You mean what we write?
Yeah.
I also have concerns with that because if it's out on the transparency page, and I have an opinion that I'm formulating to you, then that's probably a violation of the sunshine law. Craig goes and looks at it. Am I making sense over there, Jim?
A lot of issues there.
In other words, in today's world, you're not going to email is email. It's the way we communicate. We can communicate from our phone, we can communicate driving, we can communicate wherever. And I have an issue with it, but I'm just afraid there's going to be a problem with it. So Jim might want to look into that first before report that's out there because
There is a number.
But I like where Bill's going now. So maybe a good compromise would be putting a link on the city's webpage that people could go to ask for, freedom of information or whatever the proper term is for the city, that they could ask for those emails. Maybe that's a good compromise. I don't know.
Well, that's something I put on here was, how to request public records, whether we do it online, which is a quicker method, or,
We're ready with that.
because I am concerned about some of the emails where, there's a discussion.
Right. Mike, the only thing.
Why would you put the
But
email?
I'm not gonna do that, because that's how we communicate. And until, Greg's obviously out of town, he can't work full-time and be on his own 24/7. That's how we communicate. I'm not gonna,
Mike,
My communications with council members at work typically are in evening hours and email.
or you're doing your significant other, texting or,
I have two things. One, the next to last one, it just talks about grant writers and competitive bidding, RFQs. I think we got a little scared tonight. If we have to put in a bid for, a grant for Cassia, we don't know how we're going to get from here to there on that. Luckily, that one can be turned, but we need to, when you gave us 2 weeks ago, I think we need to review that, get back to you and say, let's put this on the table and let's see how we're going to do grants. We have to do that.
As long as the state statute doesn't require cost considerations, it may be in the city's best interest on professional services to look at a request for qualifications, as opposed to, taking the lowest bid.
I think that's right. The other thing, and I just throw this out to the council, historically, we haven't done the last couple of years, we've had a levels of service where each department head comes in and talks to the council about needs and wants for the next budget cycle. And I was thinking, we haven't done it in a couple of years, we really but last week we mentioned needs, this is a need, and Greg, you mentioned needs. I think it would be good if we had each department head to come, it takes about an hour and a half, and present to us their department before the budget cycle. Historically, that takes place in May. And then you have a feel for what's going on. I think KPIG may do a little bit of this, but it would be nice to hear from each department head. And I'd like to throw that out here. I don't know if you'd like to have that, but it's really good. You ask good questions, and the department will tell you what they need, so that when we get the line items and the budget and we're discussing it, we can go back to that and what.
I like it, Mr. Mayor. I would just suggest that they also be tasked to bring proposed efficiencies as well.
Yeah, I think that would be good. And so if we could we'll set that up. Usually it takes place at third week of May, and in a workshop or something. And we could probably get it done in an hour and 30 minutes.
And then also at the May 2nd meeting, because I indicated the agenda is getting full, probably the first hour you will have a CRA board meeting, because you're going to get your CRA 101, and you're going to get the first updates from your consultant. So a plan because Jeff said he'd like 30 minutes of time to talk CRA 101.
Do we want to do that at the end?
I think it's important to invite all the board members to that meeting because of the CRA 101.
You're talking all city board members? Okay.
Not that they're obligated to come, but just invite them because they are, and
I was just wondering, do we want to do that at the end?
No, I think we want that on the end.
Okay. I was just thinking we do the council meeting and then we do it. But, okay. All right. Lenore, I looked over number 12, appointments of boards. Anything? Next one. Okay, thank you. Agenda item number 14, adoption of minutes.
Oh, hey, Mr. Mayor, two additions if we could for next week's meeting, and they're small. One is the Mr. Beadle's input on the referendum for the supermajority. And then the second one, Mike, if you could give us an update during your city manager update discussion on changing from city fuel tanks to contracting with the with the city business for fuel.
We can give a preliminary report, probably, if it's a viable option, we won't have all the information, but I can give an update.
Thanks.
It's not highlighted, but it is one of the things.
Yeah, it is. One last question, Cheryl. Is that negotiated for a contract of outside maintenance, is that, satisfied with what we're doing for the police department? Or do you want to expand that?
You can move that.
Okay, because I wasn't sure if it was just police, the fire department, fire department. On that interlocal agreement. Is that what you were referring to?
Hold on, I'm catching up. No, but we need to add some backup information to that before that goes.
Okay.
And then one other thing, can you give us an update on the beach caster? The status of the beach caster?
I've been trying to get a hold of, Mr. Headley and have not heard back.
Okay, well, I am, fine with the status of the beach caster and the situation, all the effort that the citizens are put forth, and if maybe we need to consider just putting a statement on the webpage that, due to staffing and funding, that it's just not gonna happen, at this point. Because we're heading into the budget cycle, and it's gonna be busy, and we'll look at it then, and this way if people link onto the webpage, they realize that we tried and it didn't happen.
We have been getting calls, residents have, given emails and asking when this is forthcoming, so we are getting those type of calls.
Let me keep trying to get a hold of Steve, and, because what he did was good.
Yeah. But a lot of those, articles that we worked on are, so I guess are over, so.
Great. We have no other agenda items. Anything else from the council?
No, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything? All right. This meeting's adjourned. See you on the second.
Okay, great.
And
Great.
we are.
This is Jim Dana. What time is